The wine party of Caliph Harun Rashid. Once, Caliph Harun Rashid organized a wine party in his palace, where nobles were seated. Behlol arrived as well. He silently observed the actions of the king. Harun Rashid, in a drunken state, recalled his previous advice from Behlol and decided to challenge him with a question. He thought that by doing so he could make Behlol bow his head. Harun Rashid asked, "Behlol, answer me one question. If someone eats grapes, is that haram?" Behlol replied, "Not at all." The king then asked, "What if he eats grapes and drinks water?" Behlol responded, "There's nothing wrong in that either." The king continued, "What if, after eating grapes and drinking water, he sits in the sun?" Behlol answered, "The person is not a criminal for that. He can sit in the sun if he wants." Harun Rashid then asked, "What if the grapes and water are left in the sun for a while? Will they become haram then?" Behlol replied, "If some mud is placed on a man's head, would he be harmed?" Caliph Harun Rashid replied immediately, "No." Behlol continued, "If water is poured on his head, will he be harmed?" Harun Rashid responded, "No." Behlol went on, "What if a brick made of mud and water is placed on his head? What harm would that cause?" The king laughed and replied, "It will break his head, of course." Behlol calmly said, "Just like mud and water can harm a man's head, grapes and water too, when combined, create something harmful. When consumed, they impair one's senses, causing a loss of judgment between right and wrong. This is why Islam imposes punishment on those who drink it." The market incident with Behlol and Nambi. One day in a busy market in Baghdad, a fakir, a poor man, passed by a shop where food was displayed, tempting passers-by with its delightful aroma. The fakir, hungry but penniless, could not resist the smell. He took out some dry bread from his bag and, after soaking it in the fragrance of the food, ate it. Nambi, a merchant, noticed this and stopped him. He said, "Why are you walking away without paying for the food you've consumed?" The fakir, surprised, replied, "The food was in the air. I didn't take anything from you." Nambi insisted, "Taken advantage of my food's fragrance, so you owe me." The situation attracted the attention of Behlol, who was nearby. After observing the scene, Behlol dropped some coins one by one and said, "Take this and listen to the sound of money as payment for the fragrance of your food. This is the price for it." The people around them laughed at the absurdity, and Nambi, realizing the ridicule he was receiving, left in embarrassment. The throne incident and Harun Rashid's humiliation. One day, Harun Rashid and his courtiers gathered for a grand meeting, and Behlol came to visit. Seeing a crowd of people around Harun, Behlol was unable to find a seat. He stood for a while, staring at them, and then decided to walk towards the throne and sit on it next to Harun. The courtiers were shocked and began shouting, claiming that Behlol had gone mad. Harun Rashid, angry but unable to speak, watched Behlol with fury. Everyone was astonished at Behlol's audacity, and Harun felt insulted. He then said, "Behlol, I will give you a challenge. If you answer my question correctly, I will reward you with 1,000 dinars. But if you fail, I will have your mustache and beard shaved off and parade you in the streets." Behlol responded calmly, "Ask your question." Harun smiled, thinking it was a trick. He asked, "Tell me, which date is the one that is 1 year old, with 12 branches, each having 30 leaves, one of which is bright and the other dark?" Behlol smiled and answered, "The date is the year. The 12 branches represent the months, the 30 leaves are the days of each month, and the bright leaves are the daytime, and the dark leaves represent the night." The court erupted in applause, but Harun remained silent, realizing that he had been outsmarted. The lesson on spirituality. Later, Harun Rashid went on a walk with his wife and encountered Behlol, who was sitting by a riverbank. Harun greeted him and asked what he was doing. Behlol replied, "I am building a house on the roof." Harun inquired further, "Why are you building it?" Behlol responded, "Whoever buys this house, I will pray for him that Allah grants him a house in heaven." Harun, not understanding the point, left but later had a dream about the palaces of heaven, realizing that Behlol was offering something far more valuable than he initially thought. Harun returned the next day to buy the house, but Behlol explained, "The price of this house is the entire world, and I cannot give it for such a small cost. You came here looking for something cheap, but now you must pay a higher price because you can see the value." The etiquette of eating and talking. One day, Behlol and Sheikh Junaid Baghdadi met, and the sheikh asked Behlol about his manners of eating. Behlol explained, "When eating, one must first ensure that the food is halal. No matter how proper the eating etiquette is, if the food is haram, the benefits of the etiquette will be lost." The sheikh asked about the etiquette of speaking. Behlol responded, "When speaking, the heart must be pure, free from jealousy, anger, or love for worldly things. One must speak only for the pleasure of Allah and in remembrance of Him." Junaid Baghdadi was deeply moved by this, realizing that even the learned ones sometimes forget the essentials of life. He prayed for Behlol's wisdom. The merchant's misfortune. One day, a merchant asked Behlol what he should trade in. Behlol advised him to buy cloth. The merchant followed the advice and became wealthy. However, later, Behlol jokingly told him to trade watermelons, which led the merchant to buy them in bulk, only for them to spoil quickly, costing him his wealth. When the merchant complained to Behlol, Behlol said, "Yesterday, you bought what was certain to bring you profit, but today, you bought watermelons, which had no lasting value. What you choose to pursue in life will determine your success or failure."